Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
But I want to turn your attention next to, well, I suppose you could describe this as light relief, Jeremy Corbyn's latest intervention on the world stage. He's calling for companies to stop what he describes as early evening socialisation, claiming that after-work drinks discriminate against mothers. Now, that simple phrase there, early evening socialisation, is a large part of the problem that the Labour leader has. That problem could be loosely described as talking like a 1970s polytechnic. Early evening socialisation. When in anybody's life ever has the phrase early evening socialisation been a thing? Well, what did you do last night? Well, I had a little bit of early evening socialisation. Then we went out for some dinner, and then we went dancing. Oh, okay. What did you do last night? Well, we do you know what? We did some early evening socialisation as well, but then I just went home and watched telly, so I had some sort of mid-evening televisual entertainment. This is what I find baffling, and look, by all means start attacking me for criticising Corbyn. It's gone peak UKIP now, the Corbyn cult. It's exactly the same, they even use the same phrases. Oh, media, oh, establishment, oh, this, oh, that. Absolute loom bands. So fill your boots, honestly. Seriously, I'd rather you spent your time doing that than doing anything like operating heavy machinery. So here's the thing. This man, how old is he? Nearly 70? He thinks that the phrase early evening socialisation is one that you employ when talking to British voters. So even if his ideology is as pure as the driven snow, even if his vision is truly messianic, even if his beard is made of cashmere, the bottom line here is he thinks the phrase early evening socialisation is going to prompt anything other than sniggers and giggles from the back and the front and the middle of the class. Early evening socialisation. That's a problem for me. You may have picked up on that. However, the bigger problem comes, for me at least, and this may be one of those hours where you take great pleasure in pulling my pants down and spanking me from here to next Tuesday. The bigger problem for me comes with the suspicion that he's actually making quite a good point. All of my female colleagues now are looking at me with the kind of sneering condescension that's ordinarily reserved for colleagues who shall remain nameless. I think he's making quite a good point, but I have a massive Achilles heel on gender-related issues. My wife gets cross with me about it. Some of my most committed texters, yes, Emma, I'm talking about you, they get very cross with me about it. I think it's because I went to an all-boys school and I grew up in a very patriarchal society, and I'm conscious of some of the bad messages that's embedded deep within me. In her angriest moments, Mrs. O'Brien sometimes suggests that I think we should have a sort of 1970s style division of labour in the house. I categorically don't. I'm just not very good at doing some stuff that she thinks I muff up on purpose in order to avoid being asked to do it again. That's probably a conversation for another day, although there is a story about housework in the news today. How many more minutes than men do you think women do every day? Women are doing less housework than ever before, but they still do X minutes more than men every day. I'll share that with you later. But I do think he's right when he talks about the end of the day. All right, I'll put it out there. All right, you're all in the pub at the end of the day, having an early evening socialisation, and who feels the greater pull to go home, the dad or the mum? Hit the numbers now, you will get through. Right, let's just start with that, straight up, okay? 0345 6060 973. My problem now is that I go all holier than thou, and aren't I wonderful? Because I remember being at a party with Nick Ferrari many moons ago, and we'd done a daytime TV show together, and there were drinks afterwards. I think it must have been the end of the series, and we're tying one on. And the Nick and I are about 10 years apart in age. I'm never quite sure exactly how it is, but he's been in the business way longer than me because he went straight into it from school. And we both are the sons of newspaper journalists, so we both spent our childhoods really with borderline absent fathers, such as the nature of the business that we both followed our fathers into. So Nick says, we're going on somewhere, and I said, actually no, mate, I want to get home. I like to bathe the kids at the end of, and I don't do it every day, but on the days that I'm down to do it, as it were, I really like to get there. And I thought the old fella would give me a right old ribbing. I thought he'd be taking the mickey out, but he didn't. He said, God, things have changed, haven't they? He said, because, when my children were your children's age, it wasn't even an option for me to get home. And it wasn't just about being in the pub having an early evening socialisation. It was part of the culture of work. that you wouldn't even have the choice. And I think one of the best things about this job for me is having the choice to pick the kids up from school, to be there. But if you've got a normal 9 to 5, okay, phone lines are open. I just want you to shoot me down if I've got this completely wrong. 0345 6060 973. You're all in the pub after work. You've got a normal job, so you put in a proper shift, 8-9 hours. You're all in the pub after work. Who feels the greatest pull to go home? Mum or dad? I don't think it's yet more evidence of my medieval misogyny that I think mums do. I think mums feel a greater pull to go home, don't they? 0345 6060 973. So, you need to answer that before I can go any further. So I'm going to shut up for a minute until you ring in to answer that question, all right? Is it true that mums feel a greater pull to get home from the pub when they're having a drink than dads do? 0345 6060 973. You take your time on that. Because if they do, and I kind of need proof that they do, I need you to tell me, otherwise I'm just left enforcing my own speculation, then Corbyn's got a point. Corbyn's got a point when he says that the after-work drinks culture discriminates against working mums. Now, whether or not this should be a priority for the leader of the opposition when, I don't know, the doctor's strike might be a little bit higher up on his to-do list, I don't know. But there are 3 elements to this conversation that I want you to join in on. The first is the easiest, okay? 0345 6060 973. Is it fair for Jeremy Corbyn to suggest, because he's old as well, you see, is it fair for him to suggest that when you're in the pub together, the women will want to go home more than the men will, if they've got children? 0345 6060 973. That's the first element of this conversation. The second element then becomes, well, do you quite like Jeremy Corbyn's intervention? Is it something that a company could realistically introduce? But the conversation I really want to have, and I don't know if we're ready to have this yet, but the conversation I really want to have is what this particular story, this particular proposal tells you about the bigger Jeremy Corbyn picture. So if you love the fella, you can explain why this is evidence that he is leading us all to a land of milk and honey. If you love the fella, you can explain to me and everybody else why this is proof that he's the real deal. If you're unimpressed by him thus far, you might want to explain to me why this somehow, I want to unpick it, I want to get down to the essence of what it is about this story that is so arresting. I find it staggering that a man can even issue the phrase early evening socialisation, or even think that in the current commercial and political climate, calling upon companies to cut out after-work drinks it's insane to me. It's actually beyond comprehension that anybody looking at Britain in 2016 and making a list of things that you're going to put out there as a policy, especially during a leadership campaign, a leadership contest. And I'm sorry if this upsets you, but I can't quite imagine how anyone can go, yay, back of the net. Nice one, Jezza. Down with early evening socialisation. Do you see what I mean? It's as if I know he means well. I know there's something really warm and fuzzy and cuddly at the heart of this proposal. It might be a bit paternalistic or patronising. I don't know. You will tell me in a minute. 0345 6060 973. But it's just delivered in such a... My colleague Albert used a beautiful phrase to describe the process that I'm seeking to articulate at the moment, but I'm not allowed to use that phrase on the radio. He muffs it up. Even when he's got what is perhaps a good idea, he muffs it up. Doesn't he? 0345 6060 973. So God knows what questions I'm asking you, but if you've worked it out by now, then ring me and tell me what your answers are. Wesley's in Hertfordshire. Wesley, you can go first.
Thank you. Yeah, basically, I mean, I like Jeremy. I do like Jeremy because he's different to everything that I've seen in the past in my 40 years of living. But basically, when it comes to the children, I've got 2 children at home, and I will encourage them to, or to let them let me put them in the bath or put them to bed or read them a story or whatever. And they always say, oh no, I want mummy to do it. Oh, let mummy do it. Let mummy do it. That's been a thing forever. So,
yeah, but I don't know that you can extrapolate a universal truth from that. It might just mean your children don't like you very much, Wesley.
Maybe that is the case, but a lot of I hope not. But a lot of parents, a lot of dads are in the same position. You know, mums have got that certain touch that that some children need before bed, and
no, that's not what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking is when you're in the wine bar after work. I just checked where you were then, Hertfordshire, so I'm going for wine bar. When you're in the wine bar after work, if your wife were there as well, does your wife work?
Yes.
So you're both working. Imagine if you worked in the same place. Will she feel a greater pull to go home than you do?
I think so. That just based on our the way we look at things.
Yeah.
Just a motherly instinct.
No, leave it out, mate. Come off it. Really? What do you want to do? You say, I'll tell you what, darling, you have another vodka and tonic. I'll go home and look after the kids. She'd say, no, my mothering instinct will not allow it. Really?
A bit of responsibility, yeah. In my situation.
Okay, then I'll move it along to this one. Should your company cut out after works drinks or cut down on after works drinks in order to stop discriminating against women like your wife? Because she has to go home and put the kids...
She's got a choice. She can choose whether she wants to stay or not, and I don't think it's down to anyone to say women should stay out later or men should stay out later.
That's where I keep reaching.
Yeah, but in my situation, the mother is the one that is a little bit more needy at home to be in that situation.
Maybe I like your contribution, and thank you for realising. That's the problem with the radio sometimes, Wesley, is when you've got your tongue in your cheek and you say something, people can't tell. So obviously, when I suggested that your children might not like you very much, it came as a great relief when you giggled, as was indeed the intention in response. So I don't know what we chalk that one up as. He buys the idea that women might feel more of a pull to the home than men do because that reflects his relationship, but the idea that employers should somehow accommodate this instinct, if you want to call it that, into post-work drink. I'm sorry, into early evening socialisation. Is Wesley still there? Wesley, are you still there?
Yeah, I am.
Well, are you going for an early evening socialisation later, mate?
Not tonight because I'm not very well, but I might do next month on Monday.
All right. More power to you. When you're next well enough, have an excellent early evening socialisation, and I offer that to all of you, to everybody listening. It's Friday night. Let's all have a top early evening socialisation. I'm just going to pop into the box of trolls very briefly because I don't have anybody normal prepared to sort of defend the paternalistic position. So here you go. This is the kind of stuff that I've managed to cut out of the feed into the studio ordinarily, unless I go out and look for it. I don't know who sent this one, but here you go. Millions of years of evolution have defined the sexes, and all of a sudden we now all be hermaphrodites to comply with the PC brigade. I used to laugh at things like that, but seeing as they seem to be in charge of the country post-referendum, I'm not... Actually, I am laughing still. That's a relief. However, that is one response to the Jeremy Corbyn call for companies to stop early evening socialisation. Now, Richie, who's probably going to be tweeter of the week, Richie, you've been on fire this week. He says the state meddling in having a jar after work won't sit comfortably. It's down to mums to tell dads when it's their turn. My wife would kill you for saying that. Why is it down to mums to tell dads? Why isn't it down to dads to equally contribute with mums to this decision-making process? But, he goes on, if it's for team building and bonding that a firm puts on a social after hours, then Corbyn has a point. He does. My fear is that even if he does have a point, employing phrases like early evening socialisation kind of explains why the competence issue is more relevant to his critics than the vision or policy issue. So you can say now, look, even if his policies do actually have legs, which is deeply, deeply debatable, but even if you give him the benefit of the doubt, another suggestion that we should have women-only train carriages because of harassment. I hate that idea because it's a bit like the burqa, isn't it? It's presuming that all men can't control themselves. But if women want it, then, as Jeremy Corbyn says, maybe it's something we should contemplate, but it's the mode of delivery. We live in a world, we live in an age where the medium is the message. The medium is the message. And it's an odd medium when you start using phrases like early evening socialisation. So, he says firms should stop discriminating against women by having drinks after work, by having early evening socialisation. I say, is that sexist? Just to blithely presume that the pull of home is much greater for a mum than it is for a dad. Lauren is in Kensington. Lauren, what would you like to say?
It's definitely sexist, and I feel like you're pulling my leg on this one.
No, he said it. I swear he said it.
I know, but the fact that you feel like you're possibly sliding with him, I feel like you're pulling my leg on this one.
Well, no, only if... no, I said I have to establish first whether women do feel a greater pull to home at the end of the day than men do, and I haven't established that yet. So if it turns out that they don't, then your leg will be unpulled.
Well, you have some families where the wife decides to be the breadwinner and the father will stay at home and have all of the care and responsibilities. In those situations, I'm pretty sure the fathers would rather come home than socialise after work, and the mothers would rather do the socialising to get further in work and make better contact.
Yes, but statistically, that will be an exception, if you will, that proves the rule.
But the question is, why have we got to that point? If we're in more of a Scandinavian sort of setup, would it be that there are a lot more mums who would rather go home and a lot more fathers who'd rather stay at work, or would it be a bit more even where we don't have those expectations, where we're brought up to be mothers from a very young age, given our dollies, and are told you will enjoy looking after children, and little boys are brought up saying you will enjoy earning something for your family? Would the roles then be, would it then be a bit more even? We've all gone through many, many years of being told how we should feel as adults.
I think, yes. I mean, obviously you're right for your sort of era and generation, but that doesn't mean Jeremy Corbyn is wrong for his. I mean, people in their 60s have not experienced the world that you describe.
No, that's true. But if we're talking about, most mothers now would be around my generation.
How old are you? Do you mind me asking how old you are?
26.
26, okay.
So I'd say between mid-20s to mid-40s. Sorry, mid-20s to about 40s is when you've got the parents who need to start going home. Kids are up to the age of about 5. So, yes, I'm at the vanguard of it, but I would say that a lot of women a couple of decades older than me have wanted to make a career for themselves.
But it's not a choice between the two, Lauren. This is I think, dare I say, you may be slightly... No one is saying... These women have careers, Lauren. That's why they're at work. It's why they're going to early evening socialisations. They're not being denied careers. They have careers. And the suggestion is that when they're in the pub... And I mean, you might think I'm pulling your leg.
They would pick partners that would reflect that choice.
Yeah, of course they would. But if the firm is arranging these things, it doesn't matter what partner you've picked. If the firm stopped arranging them, you wouldn't have the problem. You've put me in a very strange position now where I have to start coming out to bat for Mr. Corbyn.
If you choose a partner who shares your values and you want to be able to get as far in work as they are, you have to share things equally.
Well, of course that's true, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that you haven't got any children yet.
Sorry?
You don't have children yourself?
I don't, but I do a lot of the caring for cousins.
No, I know, and that doesn't in any way disqualify you from the conversation. I hate the idea, well, you would say that because you haven't got children. I'm absolutely not going down that road. But even if you're lucky enough to be in a relationship of equals, there is something in the notion that the after-work, early evening socialisation appeals a little bit more to the male of the species than it does to the female. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I'm happy to be told that I'm wrong. But I'm not going to be told that I'm wrong by somebody who hasn't done it or been there. Not yet, anyway. 0345 6060 973. There's an invitation you can't refuse. Give me a ring and tell me that I'm wrong. When you're in the pub, as a woman, you can't wait to get stuck into some early evening socialisation. As a man, no. You want to get home for in the night guy. I just think it's true. I'm not going down the men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or the, what did that fella say? We're all hermaphrodites now. I'm just saying that when I'm in the pub, I'm pretty sure... Well, I don't know, actually. It's years since we were doing that. And actually, my wife and I did most of our courtship in the pub. You've never been in the position of having the kids at home. I don't know. Anyway, what does it tell you about Jeremy Corbyn? Hamza is in Woodford. Hamza, what would you like to say?
Hi, hello there, James. I guess there's two broader points on this. First one, I think the concept is ridiculous and completely unenforceable. Regardless of what it says about sexism, you can't stop people freely associating after work.
It might not be free. This is the distinction Richie drew between going for a cheeky early evening socialisation and having a kind of team building or morale or a quiz night or something that you feel is not actually optional. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I mean, there's different approaches. I guess the one concept that people think like, okay, we need to all go down the pub is quite outdated now. I think people, or companies at least, are trying to be a lot more inclusive under what they term under early evening socialisation. So I think that definition is a lot broader than it was, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
But I guess the other point to say about Jeremy Corbyn, it's one of those things, like I think one of the previous callers made, there's more important matters than focusing on this very small, very niche, it's not an important issue. And I think that's one of the problems with Jeremy Corbyn, is that there's a lot bigger issues out there. I don't know who's advising him. Maybe Seamus Milne has got some ideas about what kind of policies that they need to put forward. But to bring up this point amid an ongoing discussion about the doctor's strike is ridiculous, pointless. Why
this is where MSM gets the blame. You're familiar with MSM, are you, Hamza?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, MSM are doing this. He said lots of really amazing things that MSM are studiously ignoring, and instead they've just focused on this. But my response to that becomes, look, if you don't want the media to focus on the stupid bits, don't do the stupid bits. Don't lie about how many people were on a train. Don't use the phrase early evening socialisation, or deliver a speech in which stopping people going for a drink after work looks like a policy proposal. Do you know, Hamza, come here a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know what time. It was an evening event. It was an evening event in London to launch his policy on equal rights for women. Do you know what it was followed by?
I'm guessing a little bit of a booze up.
Yeah. Yes, a drinks party. I mean, stop me now. I mean, how can this happen? So you call a meeting to announce calls for a curtailment of early evening socialisations, and as you come to the end of your meeting, which is a work meeting attended by workers, journalists, party workers, whoever else it is, you say, well, we're all going off for an early evening socialisation now. At what point? At what point do the scales drop off people's eyes?
No, I completely agree. I think there's some broader comments that Jeremy Corbyn's making that are quite good, but his delivery, like I said, with this kind of wording, is poor. And, you kind of stand back, and me, being a Labour voter, is poor as in, broader social mobility.
No, I know what poor means. I think you're being a little mild on poor. I mean, who even says phrases like early evening socialisation except sociology lecturers from the 1970s at second-rate polytechnics? No one says early evening socialisation. No conceivable human brain can that phrase be forged without somebody going, whoa. And there's no one in his gang who says, whoa, let's not put the phrase early evening socialisation out there.
I know. He's been described as the world's oldest student by someone.
Has he?
I can't remember.
I like that. And, my producer just said in my ear Simon Conway to remind me that the newsreader is coming up in a minute. But and you just said somebody called him the world's oldest student. Simon Conway. No, I'm sure it wasn't Simon Conway. He's scrupulously impartial. He would never be, never permit a political opinion to pass his lips. You're right. I do remember someone coining that phrase, but like you, I can't remember who it was. Despite the seriousness of the topics being debated in today's show, says John Knight, I feel that all callers should still be asked to say the word niblet. It's coming up to 11:30. You're probably a little baffled by that tweet if you weren't listening yesterday. This from an emailer who describes themselves as an angry ex-Labour voter. So there you go. Once again, I know what Jezza is against, but what is it he is proposing to change? I think it's patronising and a generalisation. I'm quite shy, James. My missus is the opposite. She will want to stay out whether the kids are eating cardboard or not, and I'll want to go home and tell the kids to tidy their room and do their homework. Okay, cardboard might be a bit of an exaggeration, but you can see what I mean. And that to me is the discomforting element of this proposal, because I've got a horrible feeling that the reason why I quite liked the idea is because I'm also a little bit out of touch, and I'm also prone to patronising generalisation when it comes to gender distinctions, when it comes to men and women. So just because I think that if our sort of parenting and careers had coincided in such a way that meant I was down the pub a lot when the kids were of an age when I could have been at home, I think I would have ducked my responsibilities a bit, and I'd have used the excuse that I need to be in the pub networking. The deputy editor goes every night to the Rose and Crown, and I'm in his crowd now. It's just amazing for a young journalist like me to be in the same drinking crowd as the deputy editor of the paper. I'm really going places. He's going, I can't come home and bake. You're going to have to do it again. And Mrs. O'Brien said, well, hang on a minute, I might want to go for a glass of wine with the news editor. And who would feel the greater pull to go home? I guess I'm trying to sort of justify my own weaknesses by saying I think the women would. Women are telling me they wouldn't. Let's find out. 0345 6060973. Kane is in Crystal Palace. Kane, what have you got?
I'd say that if myself and my wife were working in the same place and we're going to some corporate event after work, then I could pretty much guarantee that we would definitely sort of take it in turns. And also, I mean,
So, how old are you? I'm asking people this question a lot at the moment, but it seems
I'm 37.
so smack in between Lauren in Kensington and me in a way. So you just don't recognise the old-fashioned division. You just don't recognise the idea that the man does X and the woman does Y. We're all on the same hamster wheel these days, aren't we?
Yeah, pretty much. The only thing that I feel old-fashioned about our relationship is that I do the bins.
You're the same here, actually. I always have to I hate doing the bins as well, but you're right. That does seem to be a division of labour. So, in terms of if one of you's got to go home, because one of you's got to go home to look after the kids, it would just based entirely on circumstance.
Yeah, so I mean, for instance, if she had an opportunity there to further her career by being in that situation, then she would definitely have to stay, and vice versa. You know, we would have to just weigh it up on an equal basis, or literally it would be, you did it last time, so now it's my turn.
And this casts Corbyn then at best in the role of being a little bit patronising and a little bit out of touch.
Yeah, and he's kind of sexist.
and also kind of sexist. So he responds to accusations of sexism by assuming that all women are mothers.
Yeah.
Assumes that all women who are mothers are indelibly characterised by childcare. Assumes that men have no interest in looking after children. So we can be offended by that.
I mean, you also get single parents, you know, single mothers and single fathers. So, you know.
Of course you do. So it's just getting worse and worse. This. Are you going out for an early evening socialisation tonight, Kane?
Not tonight, no. I've got a lot to do this evening.
Got a lot to get through. Well, you stay away from the early evening socialisation. Where's that brilliant tweet from Steve gone? He's got some words of warning for all of us that I will share with you in a moment. He says the problem he has with early evening socialisation is that he always goes a little bit too far and ends up with I'll get it right in a minute. Just bear with me. Alex is in Chelsea. Alex, what would you like to say?
I was just going to say, James, first of all, thanks a lot for enjoying the show today.
Excellent.
I think it's only relevant if the company in question are actually putting the company card behind the bar, and it's something that they've specifically organised. I've worked for the last 15 years, and in my experience, the only time you have after-work drinks are on an ad hoc basis, or if it's someone's birthday.
Yes.
And I don't think in either instance the company has any relevance as to whether I'm going to go and have drinks with my friends from work or not.
No, of course.
I don't know how Mr. Corbyn's planning on legislating this.
Well, maybe that's why he described it as early evening socialisation. Let's presume then that he is speaking about events at which the company card, so to speak, will be behind the bar, or the warm Liebfraumilch will be served in the boardroom with a plastic tablecloth tossed over the table.
In that instance, then he has a policy. It's not a policy I agree with at all, similar to any of Mr. Corbyn's policies. But you're just leading to a sort of nanny state where more and more. I mean, companies already. I mean, I've worked for big companies, small companies. The big companies are already under so much pressure, to be, correct, politically correct in every sense. The threat of being sued by any female colleagues. I mean, obviously, the days of going to sort of strip clubs with clients, which I don't necessarily approve of.
And I think that necessarily in that, I think that necessarily there was a little unfortunate, Alex. I don't necessarily approve of. I don't approve of.
Nor does my wife. Nor do I.
Quite right too. Okay, what about the simple question then, with regard to your wife? Is it in your mind feasible that at that time of day, whether the company card is behind the bar or not, that the siren call of bath time, bedtime, book time is louder in the ears of a mother than it is in the ears of a father?
Yeah, you know what? I think it is, and I don't mind being controversial.
It's not controversial.
I think, to be honest, everyone's, as you said yourself, the difference between men and women is being eroded, and because quite rightly women should be as successful as men if they want to be.
Like he's gone out on a tannoy. No, quite equality legislation, but you recognise some fundamental difference. It's very odd, and I'm cracking on because the phone went a bit funny. I'd have to ask your wife the same question. I wonder whether she'd agree, actually, because I don't think mine would. And also, are we really talking about the desire to be at home, or are we just talking about having a greater desire to stay in the pub sinking early evening socialisations? 11:40 is the time. I've got some phone lines free. I love the way this conversation has gone. These are my favourite hours, when I don't have a firm question at the beginning. I just have a story that I want to chat. It's not the most important story in the news, obviously, but it is what the leader of Her Majesty's opposition chose to address last night. So, in a way, its importance is intrinsic. But it speaks of bigger issues. What does it tell you about Jeremy Corbyn? The idea that this is a priority, the idea that early evening socialisation is a viable phrase, the idea that if you have an evening event in London to launch a policy calling for a curtailment of early evening socialisation, somebody should have said maybe we shouldn't have a drinks party afterwards, Jeremy. And then you sit here, and there's a reason. I've teased you a bit. You haven't noticed. There's a reason I've done the show in the order I've done it today, so that when we were explaining why we should probably trust doctors in the last hour, it prompts a number of people who have sort of little bubbles of foam stuck around the side of their mouth to start screaming, lefty, 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 nonsense, left. And then when you dare to criticise in a very kind and generous fashion Jeremy Corbyn, your inbox becomes inundated with people accusing you of being a right-wing tool of the mainstream media. So that's the same person and the same show in the space of 1 hour and 41 minutes, almost 50-50 accusations of rampant leftism and rampant right-wing toolery, if that's a word. I think I prefer tomfoolery. Amanda is in Medway. Amanda, what made you pick up the phone?
Oh, hi, yeah. I thought perhaps you needed a woman's perspective on this conversation. Wouldn't be the first time.
Go on.
Have been men. I've got 2 children, one's 3 and one's 1, and I've recently gone back to work after my second maternity leave.
Yes.
I work in London for one of their large investment banks.
Okay.
And my point I wanted to bring was that I don't think the practice in homes and workplace has quite caught up to everyone's sentiments. I think most men would say, I'm equal, I want to get home. It's not that I don't want to get home. I'm a caregiver. But in practice, my relationship and those of, I would say, 100% of my mum friends, regardless of whether the mum works or not, she is still the primary caregiver outside of working hours. So my husband's great with the children, but ultimately it's me that's preparing lunches, arranging childcare. If they need something, it's me that's researching it, finding out about it. And ultimately, mum guilt, is applied much more liberally to the mums, obviously.
Well, it's self-applied as well, Amanda.
Yeah, it's to ourselves.
No one makes you feel as guilty as you make yourself feel, I don't think.
That's true. But then there's not the negative connotations that goes with it for men. So if the dad goes out for drinks after work, that's great, he's a dad. But, when a mum does it, everyone's looking and thinking, well, why hasn't she gone home to her children?
Especially if the children are with a nanny rather than with the other parent. But even if they're with the other parent.
Yeah.
So
he would get praised if he went home.
Oh, look at him. He's so... Oh, look, I want a husband like that when I get married. He's such a cosmopolitan. Look, he's going home to do bath. Yeah. Oh, that's so sexy.
Yeah, he's so great.
Yeah, I get a lot of that.
It just doesn't apply. And while I do think Jeremy Corbyn handled it clumsily, I totally agree on that front. It's a conversation that potentially needs to happen.
Well, what would your bank do though? If your bank sent an email out saying we're I don't see what a policy would look like. So to say, I think you're absolutely bang on, and that's what I meant by him having some kernel of warmth and fuzziness at the heart of this idea. Yeah. There is something there about the fact that equality might have moved the pace, but we all, either consciously or subconsciously, the mum does assume more of the childcare burden, even if she works as many hours as the dad. That is something most people watching will recognise, and 100% of your mum friends will reflect. But what would an actual policy look like? How would a company accommodate what you've just described? I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's not so much about official policy. It's about understanding. So I have a female boss, and she works flexibly, the same as I do, and she encourages, we have early afternoon drinks. So we have Prosecco Thursday or Prosecco Friday, where at 4 o'clock we get the Prosecco out, which just gives, we switch the day up so that those that don't work every day in the office still get to attend. And then those that want to go out for where it truly is social, I'm enjoying myself, I'd like to stay, I can then call my husband and say, are you going to be home on time? Do you mind if I stay? And it's not done as, if something is a work...
should have got you on the flipping podium, Emma. It should have had you. Seriously, you've brought it to life for everybody listening. They now understand the point he was trying to make.
Yeah, I never want to be viewed as someone who's not a team player. as much as my role in particular, I'm not so much vying for promotion. My role is pretty constant. I follow my boss's trajectory up. So it's not so much that I'm vying for promotion, but there are ladies there who are, and ultimately it's FaceTime with the higher up. So
I get it. I get it. I do. I absolutely do. You're brilliant. You're absolutely brilliant. That just Prosecco Thursday. Not only did the producer wake up at the mention of the word Prosecco, it's quite astonishing. It's like catnip to Caroline, but it also brought the whole issue alive for me in a way that I had failed myself to see by staring and staring and staring at the story. The image didn't emerge, but it has. Amanda, you're brilliant. You're wasted on investment banking. You should be working at LBC explaining what stories are really about to the presenters every morning. My friend Nick Revell's just been in touch, just back from a brilliant storming Edinburgh festival. The comedian Nick Revell points out that the word socialisation and socialising mean very, very different things. Pointing that out to me, someone should have pointed it out to Jeremy Corbyn, because it's a point Lisa picked up on without me realising when she emailed earlier to say she has come across the phrase early evening socialisation before. She says, yes, we do it regularly at puppy school. So socialisation is the process by which you get used to company. So even when he's announcing something like this and using really silly long words, he uses the wrong long words. Going for a drink after work. No, we'll call it early evening socialisation. It'll make us sound That's it, isn't it? There you go. There's another penny drop moment. All designed to make... This is it. This is the 1970s Polytechnic approach writ large. This is the world's oldest student thing writ large. Why would you use the phrase early evening socialisation? Because if you're not educated to a high level, you think that sounds clever, even though you've got the wrong word. Early evening socialisation. Holy moly. 0345 60973 is the number to call if you want to join in. Danny is in Milan. Danny, what would you like to say?
Hi, James.
Hey, Danny.
A big factor for me, and I'm sure quite a few people when they go early even socialisationing, if that's a word, is, we all get together, colleagues get together, and we just have a good old moan about work. The day we've just had and how awful it was, or what, how overworked we are.
Yes.
And it's
a decompression. It's a decompression chamber. But when you're there, do you think that mums are feeling guiltier than dads about not being at home?
Well, I couldn't say personally because I'm not a mother,
sure.
But maybe not. But I've got a feeling that maybe if this was taken away, if we're going to go back to the kind of mother should be at home.
Well, they can't take it away. I mean, this is all part of the problem in that it's unclear precisely what he means. You have to presume he means, as Alex in Chelsea said, the ones where the company card is behind the bar. Because there's no way he can tell you what you can and can't do in your own time. This isn't a beach in France. The authorities haven't got the right to tell you what liberties you're entitled to and what liberties you're not entitled to. You want to go for a drink after work with your colleagues, you can go for a drink after work with your colleagues. So we have to presume he didn't mean that. He means the ones that are arranged by work. And that's where I thought Amanda's point was quite strong. So that if it went into, Thursday Prosecco, or the company actually said, well, instead of doing that team building exercise at 6 o'clock on Friday, we're going to do it at 2 o'clock on Friday, that might help mums.
Yeah, that might do, totally. I mean, if it's an opportunity to de-stress, I think that's better than instead of just actually taking it home and then de-stressing on your other half. And then, because I know in my experience, you just don't want to hear about your other half's day at work because you don't know what they do at work, and you've got too much things to worry about at home, to be honest.
Yeah, again, there's a kind of sense that this is a noble, wonderful principle that applies to almost nobody, and that's important to register, that he means well. I think he means well. I'm getting a clearer picture of what he means, but that's awful that you have to host a phone-in show and invite people like Danny and Amanda and Oliver, who's next to ring in, to get a better idea of what he actually means. This is where a lot of the criticism comes from. It's got nothing to do with bias or anything like that. It's just, look, if he can't even talk about going for a drink after work without sounding like a sociology lecturer from a 1970s Polytechnic, we've got a big problem. This is about persuading Conservative voters to vote Labour. It's not about persuading anybody else. It's about persuading people who voted Conservative at the last election and didn't vote for Ed Miliband that Jeremy Corbyn is the answer to their prayers. And if he can't talk about a policy addressing post-work drinking without using the wrong long word, socialisation, and I'm sorry, that is important, and B, not being clear on what he's talking about or who he's talking to, and C, apparently applying a slightly sexist notion that what about women who aren't mothers, who go for the socialisation, or indeed socialising after work? And that's one of the rare occasions where they feel they get an advantage, because the mums are the ones who always get Christmas and Easter off. The mums are the ones who generally don't have to work weekends. There's a sort of unwritten rule at work that the mums get first dibs on holidays and first dibs on this. And if the kids are poorly, then mum or dad, of course, have to go to the school and look after them. So the non-mum workers, the non-parent workers, they think, this is one of those rare occasions where I actually have an advantage over my female colleagues who have kids. This is where me, as a woman without kids, or of kids who've got a little bit older, is I'm not actually in second place. It's just a thought. Danny, thank you. Oliver's in Norbury. Oliver, what would you like to say?
Yeah, hi, James. I don't know if I completely agree with Jeremy's point for some of the reasons that you just said.
What do you think his point is, Oliver?
Well, I think, he's what he seems to do in politics is to try to sort of shine a light on all of the different areas of social inequality that exist, in our society, and he's, trying to sort of rectify those. But
he might be shining a light on them, but he's not doing a lot to rectify them. What do you think his point is here?
Not be, but he's trying to. He may not be, and I'm not. I don't think he is the Messiah.
So what's his point here?
But my point is that in response to you sort of, in a quite funny way, taking the mick out of his wording, is I quite like the way he delivers these points, because I think what he's trying to do is to remove some of the emotion from politics and make it a little bit more objective.
Mate, he's all Oliver. Mate, he's all emotion.
I don't think it's about trying to be clever. I think it's about trying to be objective about things and using sort of, the kind of language that you'd, perhaps an academic might use, to try to give a sort of objective point of view.
Yes, but he used the wrong word.
Well, yeah, fair enough. He's not perfect, and I don't think he would probably be that embarrassed by using the wrong word. I don't think
that makes the problem worse. So you said he's deliberately choosing language that's designed to.
Deliberately. If he made sorry, go on.
No, you go on, mate.
Yeah, I think he may have made a mistake with the word that he chose, but I think what he's trying to do, I think his intention is to sensibly and rationally sort of address these issues without
You can't do that. You can't say he's deliberately choosing new language. He's trying to rewrite the rules of politics.
New language. It's just sort of
alternative language. He's trying to choose different. He's trying to choose different language from traditional politicians because it's a way to reach out and engage. But he has misunderstood what the word means. So even
fair enough,
even if we give some credit to your analysis, which is frankly pretty bogus, the idea that he doesn't deal in emotions is about as close to an absolute contradiction of truth that I think we've had on the show all day. He's all about feelings and emotions. He's got no facts. It's all about feelings. It's why he makes films on trains about them being full when they're not. He's trying to elicit an emotional reaction. The opposite of that would be actually counting the empty chairs and giving us the number. That would be facts and objectivity. But even if, Oliver, we allow your analysis to pass scrutiny and say, yes, he is deliberately employing a new or an alternative mode of language in the hope of reaching out to people and sounding, as you said, more academic, then it becomes even more important that he knows what the words mean, surely.
Yeah, you got it wrong, and
No, you're not listening to me. Surely he has to know what the words he uses mean. That is not a lot to ask of a politician.
I think we all need to try as hard as possible to do that, but okay.
There's no but.
Yeah, there is a but.
There's no but.
His intention is a good one, I think.
His intention is a good one, but you... God damn it! Have a lovely weekend. Are you going for an early evening socialisation later, Oliver?
Well, look, I think you said it so many times now that it's going to catch on.
Do you know what socialisation means? I'm not patronising you. I've looked it up.
What you said about it before.
It's a lifelong process of inheriting and disseminating norms, customs, values and ideologies, providing an individual with the skills and habits necessary. So you're going to struggle to squeeze all that into an hour in the Dog and Duck.
Maybe we're all trying to sort of get accustomed to each other because it's difficult to relate to one another.
Yeah, that's not what he means, though. So he's calling for an end to early evening socialisation. So he actually wants people to do less understanding of norms, less disseminating of customs, values and ideologies, unless, of course, he completely used the wrong word. And I think I'll leave that there.